Oh, wow, this is fun. All right. Let's go back. Any help here? Yeah. Well, I'm trying to turn it off and turn it on again. Oh, wow, let's not do that. Well, okay, we're just going to pack this off here today, and we're fine. Let's, can we turn it off? Is it possible? So, good to see all of you here this morning. I think I could be easily addicted to that thing, so maybe this is just God's way of helping me break my addictions, right? So, good to see all of you here this morning. I am excited to continue this series and to get us where we need to be when it comes to re-engaging as a church. And I know that as we have gone through the last year or so, it's been a difficult time period. It's been very difficult for us to see some of the ups and downs. And even yesterday, watching as many people celebrating, or I shouldn't say celebrating, I should say remembering the events of 20 years ago. And I can remember, can you remember where you were on that day? Can you remember what it was like and seeing it? Thanks, Amy. Where would I be without Amy? All right, so anyway, just considering all the things that have happened and what it's like, and I just think to myself, you know, what a call to service. I saw so many of you post on social media, and others posting on social media and bringing it up and talking about it, and many people traveling actually to locations, people that I know traveling to locations to actually see some of the memorials and things that are out there, and especially, you know, just reminding ourselves of what it is that makes our country what it is. And so, you know, watching how people came together back then, you know, you see how tightly people were together and were, you know, considering each other and were considerate, I should say, of each other. And it just reminds me of how much our country is really built on serving. It's really built on serving each other. I think of the military, I think of the people who are first responders, I think of all of these people who just all the time are giving of themselves and giving so much to make sure that we are safe and that we are cared for and that we're taken care of. And so I think it's important as we kind of go into this today and we talk about serving one more time. And I don't know that I could talk about this enough because I know what this does to your faith. And today I want to take a little different look at it. I want us to consider something that's probably on a lot of your hearts and minds. Sometimes I think it can be equated with church, that the church is, you know, can sometimes guilt trip people to do things. And that is not, honestly, that is not at all what we would want to do. We wouldn't want to make it so that it was a guilt-ridden, you know, emphasis that you've got to do this, or you're going to, you know, you're going to be on the outs with God, and you're going to be on the outs with us more than that. And, you know, it isn't meant to be that way. And so I don't know what it is for you. Maybe it's the fact that, you know, there's some things about it in your mind that it just doesn't, it's like it doesn't click why I should do this or why I should be involved in it. But also, maybe it is something that's holding you back. And I thought to myself today, I wanted to try to encourage you a little bit with the idea of it's not always these things that are these barriers or whatever that we have to be concerned about. Matter of fact, those barriers, we can serve in spite of them. I want to say that I'm doing this position because of the fact that it really can't be me doing it. It's got to be God in my life. So I want to take you to this. I want to ask you a question that I think is very, very important. What has kept you from serving? Maybe not right now. Maybe you are serving currently. And if you are, thank you. That's great. We're so happy to have people who are giving of their time and everything and their gifts and skills and talents and all of that to just be in place and serving the church and serving people that are coming, making this a good environment. But I want to say this. I think that whenever we ask a question like this, there are times for us in our lives, we have had times where we definitely have where there's just something in the way. You know what I'm talking about? Something in the way that keeps us from thinking we can do something. It may be our past. It may be something that we have experienced. It may be something that has happened to us. It may be that we just, quite frankly, at the time, maybe we don't care very much. Maybe we are just going through some complacency or apathy that we're struggling with ourselves. And let's just face it, we all do, right? We all face that once in a while. But I would really like to ask you, if you've ever not served, you've stepped away from it, or you've put it away, or like I like to say, you gave it the Heisman, you didn't want to do anything like that. You were trying to figure it out. What has kept you from serving in those cases? What has kept you from maybe taking the next step of serving? I mean, you might have been doing something that was really, that you were comfortable with, that you liked, you enjoyed, you did it regularly. You've done it, for several years, and that's just the thing that you always do. But you could do more. You know that. You know that you have the abilities or skills or the opportunities. You could actually step into being a real leader, in some situations or circumstances, but you've stepped away. And I want you to really ask that question today. What has kept you from serving? I want to relieve your mind that a lot of us think that we have to overcome a lot of things before we actually can be useful to God. That we have something that we can do that will make God look at us better. So we've got to come up with a way to come across to God as if we have a sense of real, I've got it all fixed. I'm much better. I'm doing much better. Can I give you some honest something here? For whatever reason, I am very distracted this morning. And can I stop here and just pray? Can I do that? I'm not sure why, but it's in my heart, it's in my mind. I'm just a little distracted. I don't know what to say about that. And not that this didn't have anything to do with it, okay? It's just me, all right? So if you would, I'd like to pray. And would you pray along with me? God, I'm asking, Lord, right now that you would just clear my heart and mind, because I, for some reason, and Lord, I'm sure, I don't, it's very appropriate, I guess, this morning. Maybe you're just proving your point to me. I need you to do this in me today. Distracted by just thoughts and things that are going on in my heart and mind, and I pray that you'll just clear my process so that I can actually be able to speak clearly today. It's important. What I have to say today is from your word, and I don't want it to be distracting in any way. So God, I give it to you. In Jesus' name, amen. Thanks. I'm sorry. I will say, and this is not planned, I'll just be honest. The point I want to make to you today is when I can't, God can. And I really did not plan to pray like that. That's not a planned distraction. And I think it's funny how you see God do things in your life sometimes when you just are, you feel like maybe you're depending on yourself, or you're trying to fight through something or do something on your own, and you just can't do it. You just aren't going to be able to do it. And quite honestly, that's kind of where it is for me today. I kind of felt that way. And I don't know why, but I didn't mean to do that. I was not spectacularizing that in any way. I want to just get right to the reason I can say this and say it with confidence. When I can't, God can. I want to go to 2 Corinthians, where Paul we've been talking about this verse for several weeks. And the thing that comes out is this: for Christ's love compels us, because we are convinced that one died for all, and therefore all died. And he died for all, that those who live should no longer live for themselves, but for him, who died for them and was raised again. I go back to the word compels and why it's there, and the whole idea. It's the substance of what holds us to what we do. It is the word that stands out as the thing that should be our motivation, the reason. What is it that compels us? What holds us to it? It's Christ's love. And his love was shown to us on the cross when he died for us. But it should have an effect. It should have a change effect on our lives. If we know Christ, if we truly are saying we're his followers, then it should have an effect on us. And so what is that effect? That we should no longer live for ourselves anymore. We no longer live for ourselves. And I think that this is probably the thing that I go back to more and more all the time. In my own life, I realize that I am dependent on me. Anybody out there like that? Anybody out there that feel like you're dependent on you? You know that's the case. Now, I know that's not the church answer. I know that's not the Sunday school answer to say that or to admit it, but it's true. Every one of us have just a propensity. That's all we do is depend on ourselves. And we decide that we've got to be the ones that is in charge of everything, that we've got to control everything. And quite honestly, this kind of tells me that I can't live that way anymore. Why? This should compel me because Christ loved me, because He brought me to that point. He changed me. He brought me to a point of understanding that I don't have to live for myself any longer. I don't have to try to prove anything to anybody. I've proven it to the greatest of all, Jesus Christ. And He proved it back to me that He loved me. That love that should compel me, He proved it by His life and how He sacrificed on my behalf. So now, if we were to look at Paul's teaching, and when Paul was talking to the Corinthian church, Paul had these times where he had to point out things to them that was just difficult or hard or very, very difficult to get through. And so in 2 Corinthians chapter 12, later, after he had written this first part, in 2 Corinthians chapter 12, it says this. Come back to me there. One more. There we go. But he said to me, my grace is sufficient for you, for my power is made perfect in weakness. Therefore, I will boast all the more gladly about my weaknesses, so that Christ's power may rest on me. Now, when I see this verse and I look at it, I question the word grace. Because if he's going to say something is sufficient, something is completely sufficient. I don't need anything else but grace. Now think about it. Have you done anything that, just out of the blue, other than God's love or grace, that He reached out and changed your life? We heard Kyle's story here this morning of how he changed his life. Every time we think that we have to prove ourselves to God, we take away from this statement. Every time we try to control our lives or do something on our own, or we try our best to try to make it known that we are in charge or in control, whether we're doing it in our own mind or with the people around us, we take away from this statement. And it goes on, for my power is made perfect. My power is made perfect. When I consider this and I think about what this truly means, this does not mean that we are perfect, that if we are serving God, that we're perfect. Matter of fact, it says that we're only made perfect when His grace reaches out to us. So in other words, when God does what He does best, accepting us and giving us things that we don't deserve and all of that, that's what really comes out as true power. That's when it's made perfect, is when He comes into our lives and takes over and changes us. And it's made perfect where? What's the word? Weakness. This is the one thing that everybody hates to use. I hate the word weakness, that any of us have weakness. Okay? Recently I started trying to work out again. I had stopped for a while and started working out again, and I realized how weak I am. Trying to lift weights. You ever tried to lift weights before? Oh my goodness. My arms felt like noodles. It was just like, can I even do this anymore? And so, the weakness, but coming to the point to realize how weak I was made me realize how much more I needed to work on getting stronger. It kind of was an exclamation point to me. So he goes on, he says, therefore I will boast all the more gladly about my weaknesses, so that Christ's power may rest on me. In other words, it will be something that comes and leans on me. It is on me. It's as if it was a heavy blanket on me. This power that He has is on me when I am weak. Now, the verses go on, and let me show you this. That is why, for Christ's sake, I delight in weaknesses, in insults, in hardships, in persecutions, in difficulties. For when I am weak, then I am strong. I think that we kind of get the idea that we have to be strong and have to prove ourselves, and we have to make sure that we are the ones that are putting the best foot forward, or we're always that. And we forget that sometimes when we try to control the circumstances or we try to put on a face, and actually, you can actually do this in the church. When you're serving in the church, you can find yourself serving on your own strength, your own power, doing it your way, and not even bringing God into it. That can be a real problem. It's not and we would never want the fact that you come to church on a Sunday, and when you come here and you're a part of what's going on, and let's say you've actually stepped up and signed in, and you want to be a part of ministry, and you're serving, and you're there leading in ministry, and you're just there doing it on your own, that you've missed completely the whole point. The idea of growing your faith, and this is the only way that serving grows your faith, is when actually it's not us that's doing it, but it's God who is doing it in us. Now, yes, of course, He uses our strengths and our skills and all of those things that He created in us and made us to do. He's taken our life experiences and the things that we've gone through, and yes, He's made us who we are so that we can actually represent Him well. But I got to tell you, this is incredible. No matter what the insults, hardships, persecutions, difficulties, all of these things, no matter what they are, He can actually be strong in us. Paul, if you go back to the beginning of these verses, Paul was describing something that was an ailment or a difficulty, a challenge in his life, something that was hard for him, something that he was having difficulty with. We don't know. Some people, have the idea that he had some kind of a problem with his eyes because many times he had to have people writing for him. Some people believe that it was actually a person that was just an affliction in his life that would not leave him alone, that just would all the time be saying nasty things about him and tearing him down in front of other people. Some people believe that it was some kind of a physical ailment, like a stomach issue or something that just constantly was there all the time. Some people believe that he had a severe anxiety and depression and that it was there and present in his life all the time. It could have been any of those things. We don't know what it is. We just know that Paul acknowledges it as a weakness, something that allowed him to have to depend on God completely for everything he did. And a matter of fact, he allowed that weakness, he was excited actually, even exuberant in the way he would talk about it, because that's when he saw God work the most, was when he was at his weakest. Because he wasn't in charge. It had nothing to do with him. Everything that he was doing was all about God. And so anytime you see this idea of being weak, now that's not what culture will teach you. That's not what we'll hear. That's not what is natural instinct in any of us. Most of us think that we've got to do everything we can to be strong and to be in charge and to be in control. But this is the one thing that's so different about Christianity. This is the thing that's different about being a follower of Jesus, is that it comes from the standpoint of weakness, not this strong in charge, I'm going to power over top of you and I will win this argument. That's why I think there's so much upheaval in Christianity today, in the church today, and in our world today, because everyone's coming from a I want to be in charge mentality. Am I wrong there? Do I hear any yes, Greg, that's true? See, here's the whole point. When it comes down to it, Jesus set the pace for something much different. His example was this. Did Jesus come in and take charge? Did He come in and start to rule everything? Did He come in and take over the government? No. What did Jesus do? He humbly served, and when it came to the point of that God's time was right, He laid down His life and became very weak, weak to the point He died. He died on purpose so that we could be made strong. That's crazy. That's crazy. Why would He do such a thing except the fact that He loves us unbelievably and would do anything for us? So when we look at all of these and the statements are so clear and so crisp, I want to give you some things to think about. Number one, Admitting our weaknesses makes room for God to give us strength. Admitting that we are weak. And the first thing that you admit is if you're wanting to have a relationship with Jesus the same way Kyle started a relationship with Jesus, the same way any of us start a relationship with Jesus, you have to first admit a weakness. And the fact is that we're sinners. See, that's the first part. But then when it comes to actually our lives being useful, and I ask you, what was it that keeps you from serving? What is it that keeps you from stepping in? Do you think you have a weakness? Did you know that you're very qualified then? Because you have a weakness. You are actually more qualified than the people that say, I don't have a problem serving at all. Tell me what to do and I got it all. I can do it. I know how to do this and this and that. And they're ready to do it all on their own without God included at all. You're actually more qualified because you admit a weakness. And that makes room then. That makes room for God to come in and to give us strength. And don't think that, admitting that you have weaknesses is something that is going to be a problem in actually following Jesus. That's the beginning. Let me show you this. Weakness is the starting point for growing. If you really want to grow and become mature, then you've got to start at a point of weakness. Just like I said about exercising and doing those kind of things and working out. I started at a point of weakness. And it takes time to build that. Let me just tell you, that is where you start. You might say, I don't know what to do. I don't know what's next. Don't think that you have to figure out everything first before you can be a follower of Christ or serve in any way. Matter of fact, we really encourage people that if you want to serve, you can do that in the process of beginning to learn how to actually believe and to understand Jesus and who He is. We have places where you could actually roll up your sleeves and work alongside people who actually know what it is to be a follower of Christ. And it may change your heart. Matter of fact, I think it will. Once you start at this point of weakness, we don't expect you to be perfect. My goodness, if that were the case, I'd need to stop right now. It's not about perfection. But one of the things, too, that it really stands out, serving does something for you. It positions me to experience God's power through me. This is how I'm actually going to see it. When I actually come to a point of saying, I can't do this, but I want to depend on God, that's what's going to grow your faith. That's what's going to position you to experience God in a real way. Let me just tell you, go into a room of 2- and 3-year-olds and see if it doesn't challenge your faith. But let me just say this. Go into a room of 2- and 3-year-olds and let God challenge your faith and grow your faith and watch those kids become just sponges, soaking up the stories of God and of Jesus and His love and the way you treat them and have time for them and listen to them. They're going to remember that the rest of their lives. That's what changes everything then, see? Because that's a moment of weakness. God, I don't know if I can do this for an hour. Come on. Of course we can. Matter of fact, we could go a lot further than just an hour. We probably could be doing so much more. And we miss those opportunities because we try to work in our own strength rather than working from a place of weakness. And I want to tell you, this positioning of putting us in a place there, whenever you serve, God will show up. There's no doubt. And then, this is something that you have to know. Ministry stretches you. It will stretch you. It will stretch you to the point that you didn't know you could do some things. Matter of fact, in just a minute, I'm going to welcome somebody to the stage who said, I don't speak. I don't do that. I don't speak in front of people. Well, just find out that it's really true. And it takes me to the end of my own adequacy. It takes me to the point where it brings me out to where I can't do this. It has to be God who's doing it in me and through me. So, it takes a person who has a heart and a willingness. And 3 things stand out when it comes to this. That you're humble, that you're teachable, and that you're intentional. Every one of these stand out to me as important because this is the example of Jesus and what He put out there for His followers to do. humble in the way that we treat each other, not depending on ourselves, not letting it be all about us, teachable, willing to be taught how to do something so that we are not just trying to do it in our own minds and come up with how to do it, and then being intentional, meaning that we are prepared and ready to do it, and we want to do it, and we'll take the time to do it. I'll set the time aside to do this. That's what serving will do for you. It'll train you up in these things, because when I can't, God can. When I can't, God can. I want to welcome to the stage someone that you've already met. This is Kyle and Celeste Hurley. So, where are they? Please tell me they didn't run off. Okay, good. I hear them coming. Come on, guys. There we go. Would you welcome Kyle and Celeste Hurley? How are you?
I'm good.
Good,
I got
good.
stuck at the door back there.
Yeah, it's easy to do. You got to watch that big pit right there before you walk out. I've fallen in it many times. Anyway, so good to have you guys. Kyle, your video is awesome.
Thank you.
I think everybody here would agree to get to see that. I wanted to, though, ask you now, as someone who relatively new to the faith and been around it all your life, but yet really in relationship with Jesus, you're really relatively new to it, which is cool, and really, really happy for you. And then, of course, the two of you have been married how long now?
Year and a half.
Aren't they cute? So, and then how long until there's a third Hurley?
Till February 2nd is the due date.
Yeah, that's right. So there's a little Hurley on the way. So, which is really great. We're excited about that for you guys. I wanted to ask you a couple of questions because I know you both have gotten involved in serving, and you know exactly being stretched and really having to do some things that maybe you weren't thinking you could ever do before. But tell us about where you're serving and how long you've been serving, what got you involved in that. So, I don't know who's first, but go ahead.
Well, I have been serving with the kindergarten and first graders since the summer before I started sixth grade, so that's been 14 years now, and have had many different opportunities. It got weird when my kindergarteners were graduating high school, and then I felt odd. But then I've had the opportunity recently to join our Celebrate Recovery ministry, and so I've been helping with the high school girls in the landing, and that's been a really cool opportunity this past year.
That's cool.
And so I work over at Kids Street for the 4th and 5th grade boys. I'm a small group leader there, and I've been doing that for just over a year now, and enjoying it.
That's great, man. That's really great. So I know that as you guys have been doing this, what's it done for your faith to be serving? And just tell us a little bit about that journey.
It has definitely, over the years, pushed me a lot. There are definitely times in college where it would have been really easy for me to say, I'm going to sleep in this week, or, I don't need to be at church this week, and times that church probably wasn't as much of a priority, but because serving was a priority in my life, it is kind of funny how serving actually kind of held me into church until then, kind of those feelings of, okay, I need to stay connected to God. Me doing life on my own isn't working. So I think that's a huge part of, it's hard once you get out of the habit of coming to church each week. It's hard to get back into that habit. So I think volunteering definitely kept me kind of in that routine.
Yeah, I would definitely say the same thing. She would teach in the mornings, and then I would end up just showing up for second service. And so being able to teach your guys' kids in the morning has definitely brought new light for me in my faith, and has definitely pushed me to read the Bible a little bit more.
Yeah, I'm sure it has. One of the things that I think is great, has there ever, though, been any, to watch the two of you do this together and everything, but has there ever been anything that's held you back, or, that's been a barrier to you that, at times when you knew you should be serving?
So as you guys know, I'm kind of new to my faith and following Jesus. And so, teaching 4th and 5th grade kids, I'm new to it myself. So how am I going to be able to stand up in front of a group of kids and teach them about, God and Jesus? And so that was definitely a struggle for me. And then, you can give me a bag of mulch, and I'll go out there and I'll mulch some playgrounds. But yeah, when it comes to teaching kids, I didn't think that's something I could do.
Celeste, what about you? Have you ever seen anything in the past, and what would those things have been?
Mine is kind of different because starting in 6th grade, I saw the older kids serving, and so I thought that was really cool, and I wanted to be like them. So it didn't, when I started serving, it might not have necessarily been because I thought it was going to grow my faith, and all those good things that we talk about. But my attitude, probably some of those weeks when I show up to serve, and I have kind of adopted this thought process of God can use me where my feet are. And even on some Sundays when I would show up and just kind of not be feeling it. Having kindergarten and first graders, there are some weeks that it just does not feel like anything is going into their head, and they're just running around, going crazy. So that reminder of, what, God can use me where my feet are, and kind of using that to check my heart and still being there to serve the kids where I can.
I know for us here at the church, we've, for a long time, serving for students, and even, I think next door, one of the things that they allow them to do or get them involved in is when they're about in 4th grade, they have opportunities to turn around and contribute and serve. And then, especially as you get into middle school and high school, even the amount, you're a real good example then of what happens when you can do that. So let's shift gears here just a little bit. You guys newlyweds and everything. Tell me what it's done for your relationship to be serving. And you're serving in the same area, pretty much. So tell us about that.
You got it.
Thought you were ready.
All you.
It's been a really cool opportunity. Like Kyle said, I'd been serving for a long time, and then he started coming to Faircreek and joining me for second service, which was great, and we could have good conversations about the service and stuff like that. But it's definitely taken it to a little bit of a next level of, the drive home from church. We're able to talk about all the things, the service and what was going on with kids and stuff like that. And, did you hear about, this, a student, one of his kids just broke his arm. I don't know I can't see where people are, so sorry if the parents are right there.
Right over there.
So I could say, hey, I saw this, make sure you're checking in with him if he's not there this Sunday, then maybe reaching out to his family. So kind of we're able to connect with each other through kind of connecting with your kids, even though that's kind of a funny thing. And then even just prepping for the lessons and stuff like that, having some good, if one of us kind of hits a wall of, obviously teaching a kindergartner and teaching a 5th grader are going to look really different, but we're teaching the same lesson. And so it's cool then to kind of bounce thoughts off of each other. And if I'm struggling with, I don't know how to, my activity today is a little, I don't know how a kindergartner is going to grasp this story, then kind of talking it through with each other has been really cool.
Awesome.
I'm just going to leave it at that.
I do know that it was really great that you guys, right pretty much from the beginning of your marriage, you guys started serving together. It was right in that time frame, and so that was a cool thing to see. How have you seen God moving? I always like to ask people that, but if you're over there, you're part of that ministry, but just like any ministry, where do you see God moving, and how do you see Him moving in your lives and in your ministry?
You want me to start? Okay, so I've been teaching for just a little over a year over there, but the one thing that I can say is, at the end we have one of the kids pray, and we ask for prayer requests and things like that, and we would always have to just call on somebody because none of the kids wanted to pray at all. So what I've seen now is I see, when we're asked for prayer requests and ready to pray, there's 4 kids raising their hands, wanting to pray and answer those, prayer requests for the group they're in, which I think is really cool.
Yeah, that's great. A lot of that comes from example, and that's great. Good to hear that.
For me, thinking about this question, I've seen a lot of, I feel like I've seen a lot of really big moments. Like I have talked with a kid asking me really hard questions about life and death and why people get sick. And so I've had some of those big moments, and kids running up and saying like, oh, Miss Celeste, like I asked Jesus into my heart this week, so there are some big moments like that just feel so cool. Or, kids just wanting to come and share. Building that relationship with your kids is a big deal to me. Over the summer, people coming and going, and then we have our new kindergartners moving up, which has been awesome to get to know them. So some of the big things that I'm learning to recognize as big moments is just them being excited to come in. This week, nobody cried, and that was a big deal. Like, everyone just came in, they waved, and I said, oh my goodness.
That's better than over here.
Well, some people's grandkids still get a little emotional. So I apologize.
I'm sure.
But he did so good this morning. So seeing some of those, because what that shows us is they are getting connected to the church even starting in kindergarten, and that's a really cool thing. And even, like I said, sometimes when I'm teaching a big group, it feels like a lot of like, okay, remember, let's not poke that person in the face. Let's not, let's sit down. And I feel like I get caught up sometimes and like, I feel like I've asked them to like listen a lot this morning. And then I'll ask a question, and some kid that literally last week, I kid you not, a kid was spinning in circles in the back. And I was trying to get them to practice their verse. And I said, and it's Colossians. First week we've talked about it, and he just shot up in the back, 3:23. Like, he knew it. And then this week, when we were doing a little bit of review, the kids were answering back and talking about the lesson that we talked about last week. And so just knowing, even when it kind of feels like, is this doing anything? Like, is my voice going anywhere? To know that God is still using that has been really cool to see.
That's awesome. Thanks for being a big exclamation point to what we talked about this morning. And I know that for any of you here this morning, I would not want you to think that anything in your life is a barrier to being able to be used by God, because He has a plan that involves any of us, and He can take any moment of weakness, any part of weakness, the whole life of weakness of any of us, and use us to be His representative to whether they're kindergartners, first graders, fifth graders, adults. It doesn't make any difference. The opportunity is there, and God can use that in our lives. So I want to encourage you this. I know that tomorrow night is Team Link, and you might say, I can't come tomorrow night or whatever. I want you to look at the church app, and there's this one opportunity for you here today, right now in this service. Pull that app out on your phone, on your device, and sign up to be a part of Team Link tomorrow night. Or at least, if you can't make it to that, at least sign up to be contacted about what it would be to serve. You don't immediately get thrown into a place. Matter of fact, you get the opportunity to be able to mix in with other people. You have somebody to work alongside of. You work with Larry Reed, right? Yep. And so it gives you that opportunity to be able to do that, but there's an onboarding that takes a period of time, training that's involved, so that you won't go into whatever you're doing without the understanding of what it is and how God can use you in that. So I want you to take that opportunity, consider that. Please do that. It's an opportunity for us as a church to re-engage, but it also gets us prepared to make environments that are irresistible for anybody who comes in here.